Hello, I'm Sean Kelly, President of the Board of Trustees of Pequot Library. And before I begin, we just need to do a little bit of housekeeping from last year. The minutes of the 2019 annual meeting have been approved. So now we can proceed to the 2020 annual meeting. Welcome. In my day job, I draw pictures. And today I'd like to show you some pictures, but unfortunately because of social distancing, I can't quite get close enough to the camera to be able to show you these clearly. So it looks like I'm going to need a bigger sheet of paper. Oh yeah, that'll work. That'll do nicely. So I guess we're all set to begin then. And lights, please. Just want to make sure this projector is working. Okay, there we go. Pequot Library is, of course, so much more than just a library. But what makes a library unique? Is it a quiet place to relax, read a book, and chat with a friend? No, there's already another place for that. And Pequot Library is so much more. Libraries are the original search engine. They always have been and still are the place you go to find information. And libraries are the original social network. Facebook gets an F compared to Pequot, because here you can be face to face with real friends in the real world, not the virtual world. But why go online to look for books when you can come here for the inspiring atmosphere and architecture that's just amazing? That's why it's important for us to support a great library now so that it's still here for us when things get better and when we all return. And why would you go to a retail warehouse in a big chain store to buy a book when you can find not just new books, but historic books at Pequot Library for free? Pequot Library is so much more than just a library. It's a treasure chest. It looks like a treasure chest on the outside and the inside. Look up at the ceiling and you're seeing the inside lid of a treasure chest. And we're not the only ones who think so. The Connecticut chapter of the American Institute of Architects gave Pequot Library its Connecticut Treasures Award. We even won out over Yale University's Beinecke Library, so take that. But don't feel badly for the Beinecke. They received an award from the National Ice Cube Tray Association. More than any previous director at Pequot Library, Stephanie Coakley recognized the need to protect those treasures by restoring our iconic red tile roof. Built in 1894, it was 50 years overdue for a replacement. Water damage had become a serious problem, and quick fixes were not going to work anymore. Stephanie made two very smart selections in commissioning a highly regarded New Haven architecture firm to analyze the building's issues, and then a top-notch New York development consultant to strategize a fundraising campaign to resolve those issues. With that knowledge, we could make the case to our community about how essential the restoration is. Pequot Library's magnificent 125-year-old terracotta roof. It constitutes half of the entire building, and it protects all of the library's treasures. Now it needs all of our help. We've reached out to a group of tried and true supporters to help us protect Pequot Library's treasures. Following the expert guidance of development consultant Shirley Jenks, we produced a brochure to explain the need, the mission, and the goal. Through thorough examinations by architecture firm Peary Associates, active leaks were identified, urgent repairs were prioritized, and strategic solutions were devised. The start of this already very successful campaign allowed us to tell our story to our Board of Trustees. In a new monthly publication called Pequot's Progress, the library shares the excellent work of the staff, like the virtual programs and digital digest produced during the pandemic and the hugely successful books for teachers, and we can share the impressive results of the first stage of the roof restoration fundraising. In addition, we share the fantastic work of the Community Relations and Advancement team in an end of the fiscal year campaign that brought in 3 times more than last year. Especially important this year was the library's effort to tell our story to our town government. In a specially produced information sheet, we acknowledge that, of course, we're very grateful for the $350,000 which the town of Fairfield contributes every year. We shared some statistics about all that Pequot offers, the thousands of patrons, thousands of students, thousands of attendees, and along with touting the benefits, we needed to educate the town officials about the reality of the costs. It costs $4,000 per day to keep Pequot Library open. We have only 566 individual donors, less than 1% of the town's population, giving an average of just $300 a year. It was important for us to clear up any false assumptions about where our contributions come from. 90% of those donations come not from Southport, but from Fairfield, virtually every neighborhood. These essential statistics were mostly unknown to members of Fairfield's government. And as always, explaining these things visually makes the strongest impression. We're very grateful for the town funding, but the reality is that amount covers only a percentage of our annual costs. Fairfield has 3 libraries. Stephanie has forged strong alliances with the other 2 branches in town. There's the Fairfield Woods branch, the Downtown Main Library, and Pequot Library, a triumvirate. But Pequot Library receives less than 1/10 the combined public funding of the other 2 town libraries. And yet, we produce far more events and programs, and we attract over 3 times as many attendees. Many town officials were not aware of these numbers, but sharing this information has the power to strengthen our identity in town. I want to thank a bunch of people. First, the extraordinary staff of the library, who are so talented and tireless, a real dream team. Here are the employees who really deserve our gratitude. Over the past 2 years, I've worked with these current and past staffers, all of them listed alphabetically, which I thought librarians might like. In Dewey Decimal, I guess this would be biography, so that's 920. But also, I'm really grateful for the wonderful fellow trustees with whom I've worked. I felt really lucky to have all of them on the team, and their wisdom has inspired me. In particular, 5 members are completing their board terms this year. So we say thank you for your devotion to Pequot Library and all the time and attention you've given it. Allison Barry, Celie Campbell, John Herzog, Lori Langdon, and Nicholas Morello. Thank you so much, all of you. And looking forward, I want to welcome my great friend, Nelson North, who will become the new president of the Board of Trustees. Nelson is multi-talented, so smart, so dedicated, a highly experienced and extremely well-respected figure here in town, and just a great human being. He cares deeply. Nelson has been a fantastic vice president, and he'll be a fantastic president. And especially, I want to thank Executive Director Stephanie Coakley for being such a pleasure to work with. Stephanie is a godsend to the library. Today, people see the place in a whole new way thanks to her. The whole town admires her. She has strengthened the institution, hiring top-notch talent, inspiring donors, and making brand new and solid connections with local and state government, securing major funding and valuable grants. Among many qualities, I appreciate Stephanie's intelligence, integrity, and influence. And I'm not just saying that for alliteration. Also, her imagination, innovation, and inspiration. Okay, that I am saying for alliteration too. But in particular, Stephanie has a passion for Pequot. We're so lucky to have her here. Why, just last year, Bill Russell, a former president of the Board of Trustees, said, "Stephanie Coakley just might be the best thing that's ever happened to Pequot Library." It's been an honor for me to serve as president of the board at Pequot, and now it's time to say farewell. Of course, there are more important farewell addresses given by much more important presidents. For instance, George Washington was concerned about international entanglements in the 1790s, and in his famous farewell address, he warned of the foreign alliances complex. In the 1950s, Dwight Eisenhower's farewell address warned of the military-industrial complex. And in the 1970s, Gerald Ford warned of the Paisley Bell-Bottoms complex of the 70s. But for me, I don't have anything to warn of, because I know that for Pequot Library, the future is very bright. I'll say farewell because I know that the library will fare well. It's in very good hands of our hardworking staff, our dedicated volunteers, and our very generous donors, all of you. Thank you.
Wow, the Hop Perry Silver Bowl Award. I am so honored now in 2020 to receive this award, which recognizes a volunteer who has provided decades of service to Pequot Library. I remember the amazing hard work and dedication of Hop Perry and how his commitment to both the Pequot Library and the Southport community so impressed me when I first came to know him. Thank you to all of you who have worked beside me these past 20 years, and let us all remember that the positive choices we make today bring benefits which we all can enjoy. Stephanie suggested that I tell you my favorite thing about the Pequot Library. Of course, my very favorite quality of the Pequot Library is all the wonderful people who both work and volunteer here. Each library patron is met with kindness and warmth. This is the most important attribute of any community organization. And there are so many other wonderful qualities. Let's go explore the library and discover some best-kept secrets. The stacks are so unique, and we work to completely refinish them so that they retain their original beauty. But even more amazing are the wonderful books they contain. These are some of my favorite parts of the Pequot Library. Here we are surrounded by tales of all types, mysteries, biographies, and novels. We are surrounded by the dreams, aspirations, and fantasies of people like ourselves, regardless of when and where they lived. But what about the kids, you ask? Let's go see what's happening in the children's room. This is another one of my favorite parts of the Pequot Library. Here, young children become the readers, dreamers, and thinkers of tomorrow. Between Jane's welcoming smile, the imaginative and beautiful picture books, and our own literary bunny, children have a warm welcome in their own fun room. Could this be my favorite thing? Almost. But what about the gallery? Should we go see what's happening there? Here we have regularly changing exhibits which unite our current interests and concerns with those of our predecessors. Today we can view Crossing the Border, the challenging truths of human migration. In the gallery we reconcile with our history while rejoicing in our humanity, reading ancient texts that are relevant today. We can read and reflect on Phyllis Wheatley's own poetic words written in 1773. This could be one of my favorite areas of the library. But wait, there is one more place that is even more special and more unique. The Dillon Reading Room, with a collection of thousands of rare books and some dating back 1,000 years, all of which are the history upon which the ideas and dreams of today have been built. But my very favorite thing? Why, it is right here. The ability to bring my children with their 21st century school books to visit and read the original and beautifully published first editions. This year Reed is reading the Canterbury Tales by Chaucer. Do you see this mundane and drab edition he has received from his school? And yet the wonderful tales are all there. The Wife of Bath, the Miller's Tale, and the Pardoner's Tale. Here in sleepy Southport, I can show Reed this beautiful Hammersmith Kelmscott Press edition of the Canterbury Tales from 1896. And he can read these tales in this original edition. I can share with Brooks multiple primary source documents, Thomas Paine's Common Sense from 1775, Ben Franklin's Poor Richard's Almanac from 1733, and a defense of the constitutions of the government of the United States by John Adams, 1797. These documents comprise the basis of our shared history and upon which Brooks's Give Me Liberty American History textbook is based. What do I love most about the Pequot Library? I love the fact that this small jewel of a library situated in the historic district of Southport Village contains thousands upon thousands of volumes reflecting the dreams, ambitions, beliefs, and aspirations of the Americans who built this country. Here we are reminded of our shared humanity as we too make our mark on our country and aspire to make our dreams come true. Thank you, Pequot Library.
Thank you so much for the honor of the Volunteer of the Year award. I'm very flattered and very grateful. But I'm just one of many volunteers, not merely dozens, but hundreds of volunteers from ages 9 to 90, all of whom are passionate about Pequot. So I dedicate this to them. Thank you. And I invite our entire community to come join us. The more the merrier. It's an extraordinary group of fun, smart, and caring people. And volunteering at Pequot Library is so rewarding. Doing good feels good. You make new friends and new work connections. You make new experiences and new happy memories. You make and achieve personal goals and make progress for a good cause. and you make a difference in people's lives. Thank you.
Hello everyone, we're the Cooper family, and I'm Reed. I really enjoy volunteering for the Pequot Library because I really like the people there, and that's what brings me back every year.
I'm Mia, and I started volunteering at the Pequot because I'm very interested in its history, and I also think that the Books for Teachers program is a very worthy cause.
Hi, I'm Seth. I've always been inspired by the Pequot's amazing collection, and I'd like to see the Pequot remain a vibrant asset for the greater Southport community.
This year, as one would expect, operations and financial results were heavily impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Revenues and expenses for the first 3 quarters of the year for the library were trending nicely as compared to both budget and prior year. However, starting in the last 2 weeks of the third quarter, and for the entire fourth quarter, all live in-person operations, including fundraising events and preparation activities for the summer book sale, were completely disrupted. If it were not for the tremendous support from you, the community, our financial results would have been significantly worse. We ended the fiscal year with a net operating loss of $125,000 as compared to an operating loss of roughly $79,000 the prior year. With the assistance of $145,000 in funds received from the federal government under the CARES Act, the Payroll Protection Program, PPP, we were able to turn this year's loss into a net income of slightly less than $19,400. Revenues and expenses were significantly impacted with the shift in operations. Only with the assistance of the town continuing its vital support to us and an over 80% increase in support from you, the community, were we able to offset the dramatic decline in revenues from fundraisers and special events. We had to cancel both the Derby Party and Garden Stroll, which we had expected to raise close to $115,000. Thankfully, events held before the virus outbreak, book sales and art show, were successful in generating more than $210,000. On the expense side, the largest year-over-year increase was staff salaries and benefits. We began the COVID-19 lockdown with a full complement of staff and retained that staff with the support of the funds received under the PPP program. In late June, we adjusted our staffing levels for the coming fiscal year, realizing that operations will most likely continue to be impacted for some time. There was also a large decrease in capital expenditures and reserve, but this was due to an accounting nuance whereby some roof project costs are booked as CapEx in the year donations earmarked for that project were received, even if not actually spent. Cash flows will catch up to the accounted CapEx over time as the project is completed. All other operating costs declined by a modest 4.6%. The library's financial position remained strong, with total assets of more than $7.52 million and liabilities of only $134,000. There is a slight decrease in the combined restricted and board-designated endowment funds, mainly due to a difficult and extremely volatile investment environment from February through the end of the fiscal year, coupled with our annual consistent withdrawals to support the special collections and operations. Investments of the endowment are conservatively managed by Pat Morrow and Morgan Stanley, and we were fortunate to have financially experienced board members in Nick Morello, Caroline Calder, and myself overseeing the Finance Committee, with Chris Wright joining for this coming fiscal year. Our most valuable asset is the building, which at over 125 years old needs maintenance. One exceptional asset which is not valued at all in our financial position is the rare book collections. Thanks to the Dillon Fund, we have beautiful spaces for viewing and studying the collection. In the past year, thanks to the efforts of management, pending the allowances of COVID, the collection will be more accessible than ever before. With continued support by you, that access and collection continue to grow. The other biggest intangible asset to Pequot is the staff and my colleagues on the board, all of whom give their time and effort every day to ensure that the library continues to be a vital part of the community. This year has been challenging for everyone, and we cannot thank you enough for all of your financial and volunteer support.
The Nominating Committee is pleased to present new trustees Joe Kochi, Saba Pina, returning for a second term, Jim Powers, Charlotte Rogan, and Lynn Van Winkle. New officers, President Nelson North, Vice President Coke Ann Wilcox, Secretary Saba Pina, Treasurer Scott Balkin, Assistant Treasurer Kelly LaFerriere, Vice President for Investments Chris Wright.
Hi, welcome to Pequot Library's 131st annual meeting. I'm Stephanie Coakley, the director here at the library, and it's my distinct honor to welcome you all to this year's annual meeting. And on behalf of the entire team of professional staff members and all of our dedicated volunteers, welcome to this year's annual meeting, and you're in for an extraordinary treat. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you all afterwards. But in the meantime, I'll continue with a bit of remarks in looking back at this last year. But before I do so, I'd like to take some time to extend the library's deepest gratitude for Allison Berry and Vicki Konopka. Allison Berry, longtime board member, is rolling off the board. She's our immediate past board president, and it goes without saying that Allison will be remembered, and her family always, for caring for the library and being the best of stewards when it comes to our special collections. Allison, we thank you so very much for all that you've done, and we look forward to seeing you and your family at the library for many years to come. And this year's annual meeting also is a time to recognize and thank the hard work of longtime employee Vicki Konopka. Vicki's been with us for 15 and a half years. She is our second longest running employee, and just a delight and pleasure always to work with. We're going to miss Vicki so very much, but we know she's not going far, and we will see her and her family around the library for many years to come as well. And so with that, I think I'll say a few words about the last year, and then we'll turn it over to our special guest speaker, Chris Frantz. But before we do that, let's take a look at the last year through some of my favorite images that capture fiscal year 2020 at Pequot Library. Thanks so much as always, and I so look forward to seeing you in person as soon as we can do so. So hang tight, we'll review a bit of this last year and then turn things over to guest speaker Chris Frantz. We thank outgoing staff member Vicki Konopka for her 15 and a half years of service to Pequot Library. Vicki will be deeply missed. She could be counted on for her consistent, optimistic attitude always. Vicki worked in a variety of capacities over her long tenure, from assisting children's librarian Susan I, to greeting patrons at the front desk, to most recently in a development marketing capacity, teaching herself the basics of graphic design and bringing her eye and sense of what makes Pequot Library so special to each of her design projects. Vicki, we wish you the best of luck in your next endeavors. There's a great deal of gratitude in my remarks as we head into 2021 and look back on what has been a time many perhaps never imagined. The July 2019, June 2020 year goes on record as being a time of strength and courage for the library. It's also a time to thank key individuals who have been part of the library's recent history, namely outgoing board president and volunteer of the year, Sean Kelly. The board and staff will greatly miss your creative brilliance, kind and considerate ways, and your exemplary professionalism throughout. Sean, thank you so much for devoting countless hours to Pequot Library over the last couple years. Other trustees rolling off the board that we wish to recognize and thank: Lori Langdon for her thoughtful support of the special collections, Celie Campbell for her enthusiastic championing of all things Pequot Library, from art shows to planned giving, John Herzog for his role in stewardship of the library's collections and historic preservation, and Nick Morello for helping to oversee the library's finances and investments since 2013. We too thank and recognize the achievements and contributions of longtime library friends and supporters, board members also retiring this year, Joan Frost and Doug Freed. Thank you for all that you continue to do for Pequot Library. Speaking of dedicated volunteers, I also want to congratulate the Cooper family for being nominated Book Sale Volunteers of the Year. We couldn't have managed the book sales and Books for Teachers program without your help, and for that, we thank you. At the same time, I'm looking forward to working with incoming board president Nelson North, and I'm confident that along with officers Kokan Wilcox, Kelly LaFerriere, Saba Pina, Chris Wright, and Scott Bulkin, the library is in fine hands as we move forward. Rooted in community traditions, we started last year like many before, with the popular family gathering, the 4th of July bike parade, and summer book sales, to the fall-winter traditional programming, the art show, the holiday caroling party, and 2 more scaled-down used book sales. And last winter, early spring, we participated in a community partnership with Fairfield University students in the spring online exhibition, The Art of the Book, as well as welcoming over 1,000 school students for our very successful K-12 school programs. In mid-March, we closed our doors to the public due to the global pandemic. Faced with unimaginable circumstances all around, staff, trustees, volunteers, and patrons quickly adjusted to an at-home experience of their beloved library, and we all set out to expand things to a virtual world, keeping staff, volunteers, and our patrons' safety as our #1 concern always. The professional team did a terrific job transitioning to a new way of sharing our resources and services with the community, and I thank each of them for their hard work at a time when we were juggling so many stressors. We want to recognize and thank the Fairfield community's support to advocate for our current continued full appropriation from the town of Fairfield. Such much needed funds helped to keep our library programming strong and allowed us to continue to provide books and more to Fairfield residents. Having to cancel the popular Derby Day special event, June's Southport Garden Stroll, and later even our ever-popular 60th annual summer book sale, we wrapped up the final quarter with a successful annual giving campaign that raised the much-needed funds to continue our operations with minimal disruptions. Thank you to each of you who generously donated to the library during these most distressing of times. I especially want to welcome the nearly 100 new Pequot Library supporters. We look forward to getting to know you better this coming year. We remain grateful always and extend our heartfelt thanks to the individuals and businesses who have generously contributed funds necessary to support the major capital improvements underway on the urgent repairs to our original terracotta roof. We couldn't have gotten to this momentous point in our history without your commitment to Pequot Library. Thank you. With an eye on the future, sustaining our success is paramount. Our long-range vision unfolds more in 2021 with a community-wide initiative to hear from you all what you wish for Pequot Library. We've talked about setting out a formal written plan and strategy for the library for some time, and now that major roof repairs are underway on our beautiful historic building, we hope to revisit this crucial work for the 2022-2025 time period. That concludes the business portion of our annual meeting. And it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce and turn the program over to musician, record producer, co-founder of the rock band Talking Heads and new wave band Tom Tom Club, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee as a member of Talking Heads, author of the recent book Remain in Love, Talking Heads, Tom Tom Club, and Tina, library friend, Chris Frantz.
Hi, my name is Chris Frantz. I reside in Fairfield, Connecticut, and I'm very excited about my new memoir called Remain in Love, Talking Heads, Tom Tom Club, Tina, a good deal of which I actually wrote in the Pequot Library. Pequot Library is a great library, you know. Come on in, I'll show you around. I'd just like to say that working at Pequot Library I found to be very, very fruitful, not only very agreeable, but also very productive. And I think it's because the overall ambiance of the library. It's a historical place, and it's got historical vibes. I always love a place that has historical vibes. I'm going to talk about why I came to the Pequot Library to work on my recently published memoir, Remain in Love. Mostly it was my beagles that made me have to get out of my house, because every time I sat down to write my first draft, my dogs would want to go outside. And so I get up and I let them out. We have a big yard, and they were able to roam around for a while. And then I was just getting back into my writing when they barked and wanted to come back in again. And so this would go on and on. And also, my entire family works from home. So the phones are ringing, and timers are going off, and microwave oven beepers are going off. I thought, well, I should go to Pequot Library because it's so calm and peaceful there. It's a friendly atmosphere. I find it very welcoming. It's also very dignified. Like particularly this back room where I wrote quite a bit of my book. It's recently redecorated, but in a very distinguished style. You know, the dark red is very, particularly in the winter months, very warm feeling. But in the summer months, you have the air conditioner going off. It's okay, I know nothing's wrong, nothing. So I would have to move to another room, like on the other side of the building, in the front of the building. They have a nice big table for writing, so I would write there when the air conditioner was too loud in the other room. Everything would be going great, and all of a sudden some very nice ladies would come in and say, "I'm sorry, sir, but you're going to have to move because it's time for our needlepoint meeting." Of course, I didn't want to interfere with their needlepoint, so I would move over to the middle of the room, which was really nice in the winter, and sit in a club chair in front of the fire. One of the librarians is very good about keeping the fire stoked. It's a good fireplace, the chimney draws very well. One librarian noticed that I was moving from room to room, and she said, "If you'd really like some peace and quiet, you can move back here where we tutor the children." And it's a little, very modern kind of classroom cubicle where you can sit in a very, upright posture and work on your book there. But I found it a little bit too much like school. So I would usually head back to one of the other rooms. I worked with a laptop, MacBook, and I didn't write it by hand or anything like that. I wrote the whole thing in Word. As I was writing the book, I was kicking myself that I didn't keep diaries. When I was going through these very eventful years with Talking Heads and Tom Tom Club. I was very fortunate to find that Tina had kept not diaries exactly, but date books, like the kind you buy at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. This particular one for the year 1977 has King Tut on the cover. That was a big year for us. We signed a record deal, released our first album, and Tina and I got married. So I'm very happy that she had all the dates, so when I was remembering back, I could get things organized in my mind. I also used things like receipts for people's per diems. Like this particular little book is for the second Tom Tom Club session in the Bahamas at Compass Point Studios. You know, people would sign off when they accepted their $30 a day per diem. And although I see most of them took a little bit more than 30. So another tool I used quite a bit was my iPhone, the little notes program. Sometimes I was on the run and an idea would come to me and I would need to jot it down. And you know, I forget to carry a journal with me to this day to jot things down. And it was very helpful in remembering, for example, where Sire Records was located on 74th Street, the exact address. And you know, that was our record company, and they were in a townhouse in New York, and so it was kind of significant that they were in a little townhouse in New York and not in some superstructure in Los Angeles, you know. I was very fortunate to have a great band teacher named Gene Wilmoth. He was a mallet instrument guy himself who played marimba, xylophone, and vibes. When I mentioned to him that I was getting nowhere on my trumpet, he said he thought I had a very good sense of rhythm, and why not try the drums? I just wanted to play music, so I said yes right away. And he gave me a pair of sticks and a practice drum pad, which was a rubber pad mounted on a piece of wood. Then he gave me a quick run-through of drum rudiments and a beginner's book and told me to start practicing. I did practice, and I practiced hard. You begin with a single stroke roll, and then you learn a double stroke roll, and then a 5-stroke, and then a 7-stroke. I got good at these before I moved on to paradiddles and ratomacues. What, you may ask, is a paradiddle? It's when you hit the drum one time with your left stick, and then again with your right stick, and then twice with your left again. Then you hit once with your right stick, and once with your left, and twice again with your right. Left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right.